All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. All right. So we just got some GDP numbers. Let me go ahead and post the tweets. Morning. Good morning. Good morning. I don't know why my stream took so long to load today. I was just waiting here for like 2 minutes for this thing to pop up, but it's all right. It did it. We're live. All right, sent that tweet out. Perfect. Okay, now let's take a look at GDP. GDP comes in at 2.6 versus the expected 2.4. All right, so market's popping on that news. Perfect. Sky, good morning, good morning. Daniel, good morning. Nancy, how you doing? Good morning. Air Cyprus, good morning. A Queen, yes. What's going on, guys? Good morning, good morning. All right, let's get everybody in here. We'll wait till around 8:35, and then we'll get things popping here. Let's get everybody tuned in, and let's get going. Bounce God, good morning. It's the Foolish Snowboarder, good morning, good morning. All right. So for the time being, nice little pop in the market. We'll see if that decides to hold up. All right, let's get people slowly trickling in here. We'll start at 8:35, and we'll get things going. Good morning, but not for you, Meta. Meta didn't even flinch when the market ripped to the upside just now. It's just like, I'll stay down here and die. Jensen Joy, good morning, man. How you doing? All right, guys, we got about 25 of you guys in here, so let's go ahead and smash those like buttons. It's a constant battle with these likes, huh? It's so funny. I put content out and like it gets like 1,000 views and like nobody likes it. People just consume. All you gotta do is press the like button. It fascinates me so much. Skyzen, Marjan, good morning. So recession is over. We're back at positive GDP. Telling you, man. Just gotta trade the charts. Don't get too consumed into this data stuff. Data's all over the place recently. All right. Got about one more minute, and we'll get going. Virgo. Yo, let's learn and earn. Hell yeah, man. Cigar Chordia. Good morning, my man. How you doing? Or, yeah. Sauber. I don't know if I'm probably butchering your name. But good morning. All right, a few more seconds and we'll dive right in. Obviously, we'll start with a SPY. And then we'll get going. A few more seconds actually, not even minutes. And then we can get kicked off. 32 people here. Let's go ahead and smash that like button. All right, guys, it's 8:35. Let's get started. So, we've talked about this. You guys have been following me long enough, you know. We had this little bit of a, I like to call it a double bottom. Some people see it as a cup and handle break. But regardless of which pattern you see, this double bottom here with the neckline being right here was the key thing for me. We broke out of it on this candle right here. Oops, we broke out of it on that candle right there. And then we came up and we retested the 50 moving average on 2 days. And yesterday we saw that wick, that rejection off of the 50 moving average. All right. So the 50 moving average has been a moving average that's been rejected as well prior. So it's something to note, right? We got that inverted pin bar, inverted candle. So a lot of names going into today, we're starting to look a little bit of, a weaker, more of a sell-off in the morning type of event. Now we have GDP and we got a little bit of a pop, so we'll have to look at upside levels to kind of establish what's really going to happen. Okay, so either way, ideally here we've had this move up after this double bottom break. Could we get a retest continuation and then go higher? That would be ideal. I really don't want to see this thing kind of just push up. Then it's going to cause a lot more problems on the upside. But if we get a retest naturally, hold that neckline, continue higher, that would be ideal in that regard. All right, so that is that. Now let's jump into the 15-minute time frame and see what we're kind of working with. Okay. Gonna put all my levels back up. Perfect. So you can see right here, we're still kind of pinched between these two levels. All right, we're still pinched here. We're still seeing that big rejection off of that 383. Now, just to kind of put it in perspective, the 50 moving average is sitting at around 385. Okay, so 385 is right up here. Also an area where we rejected again yesterday. So if we're able to kind of hold these levels here, if we're able to kind of hold 381, which we did in the pre-market, we did yesterday very well. If we're able to hold that and push into the 380-360, we really need to get above that level and hold if we're going to move higher. Okay, this pop here is really irrelevant. It doesn't matter. We need to open up, we need to push up, hold up here, whatever the case may be, and then continue pushing. And then in this area is where that next level that we need to focus on happens again. That's where that moving average is again. This is where we're going to see some more resistance, and of course obviously over that 387 possible, depending on how strong the market is. We could see moves higher on top of that. But first levels to look at, we need to stay above 383 for push to 385, 387. Okay, that's kind of the game plan on the upside. On the downside here, if we fail to lose this 381.70, then very easily, we're going back down, and we're going back down to this neckline. So these two figures you see here are actually the neckline on the SPY. Okay, so if we sell off, we can't hold this 381 level. We sell off, we kind of pop back up and continue going lower. We could fall into these levels here, and then possibly try to bounce and so forth. Or if we break it, then obviously we open up for further downside move. But that 381.70 is going to be that key level today on the downside, because you can see this buying pressure at this level. You can see pre-market support there as well as the open. You had some support there as well as yesterday's pre-market. So very valid level, 381.70. Can't hold, fall back down, and continue to the downside. Okay, now take a look at this. You see where price action was on SPY and where we are in the pre-market here. Okay, so essentially what I want you to pay attention to is these levels here. Okay, you see how it's very in line, all sitting at the 381 level. Now, when we dive into the Qs, take a look at what's happening here. Right, that in line is not there. Obviously, we're seeing weakness in the Qs, and that's obviously something that everyone already knows about, but you can see it on the chart here. Okay, so we're going to jump into the Qs. We're going to clean this up a little bit so we can see what we're looking at. All right, I have so many clean. Every one of my clean charts is actually not clean. All right, so there's another one. So here we are. We can see we have resistance right here on Qs, right? We had that double bottom breakout on the SPY, but not so much the Qs. On the SPY, we managed to hit 50 moving average, but we haven't been able to do that on the Qs. So there's relative weakness in the tech sector across the board. Again, we came up to that resistance level of right here, all right, and we rejected. We put in this inverted hammer. Okay, so something to note, usually obviously inverted hammers at areas of resistance could mean further downside. So that is simply just what we're looking at and what we're dealing with. Whereas the SPY was a rejection of the 50 moving average, this is the rejection of old resistance. Okay, so similar but yet different on just the aspects of rejection. Now let's jump into the 15-minute time frame. Clean this chart up again, put my levels in. Perfect. So what are we looking at in regards to the Qs, right? So we don't have that key level because we've already lost it on the Qs from yesterday. Right? We've seen that earlier weak pressure here in the pre-market that's caused us to drop below that. So the level we need to pay attention to is this 275.50. Okay, that's that level to say, okay, if we break under it, then we're going to continue lower, and if we're able to hold above it, then we can kind of look for the upside trades. Okay, so we'll talk about the upside. For the upside to happen, we got to get above, whoops, we got to push back and maintain above this 277. Above that, we can look to retest here, which is all this congestion from yesterday's level. Whether we consolidate here or break out, it needs to be established and seen, and then obviously back up to this level here too. Okay, so we're going to obviously similar systems to the SPY and the Qs. The SPY, but obviously the SPY, I mean the Qs is a little bit lower. Okay, so on the upside, we got to get above 277.80 to hold, and then once we hold, we could try to aim for these upper targets. On the downside, if we roll over and lose 275.50, then you're going to look at retest. If that retest fails, then continuation down to the downside. Then 273.60, and there's a big pocket on the 273.36, so we'll see if that decides to hold up for the remainder of the day, or possibly the 272. But 273 is a big level there. Lose that, you should open up to around 270. Okay, so upside level is 277.80 and downside 275.50. Again, you guys are more than welcome to screenshot these levels if you need. There's your Qs, and then this is your SPY. All right, gonna leave that there for a second. Perfect. Just gonna look at the chat really quickly. Nino, good morning, good morning. So correctly pronounced, perfect. Ramirez, good morning, sir. Gabby, good morning, how you doing? Talk about Tesla, please. AMD lows, please. All right, we'll talk about those near the tail end of this. But for now, let's jump into the free alerts. All right, so we'll talk about the free alerts and how you guys can kind of take advantage of those, and we'll go from there. So the first one on the list is AMD. So we can see obviously very solidified level of resistance right here on AMD. Right, we can see that last 3 days. This 62 level has been a level to watch, well, not to watch, but it's been rejecting multiple times. Okay, so the reason why we have this trigger set at 62 is simply because of that old resistance. All right, so if we break over 62, then obviously we're looking for upside moves towards 62.80, 64, and that is simply a break of resistance for continuation to the upside. Now on the downside, we need to break 60.50. Now why 60.50? Because, well, it was resistance a few days ago, and it is acting as support today in the pre-market. After that big move up, it's acting as support here. Break that, it could continue selling. This surge up here is probably relations to Nvidia's sympathy move. So we'll keep an eye on it under the 650 for the downside play. Okay. Now, once I'm done going through all the upside and downside triggers, I'll tell you guys how and why you can take them and which ways you can kind of look at taking advantage of these. Next one is Nvidia. So obviously, like I said, Nvidia had the news. It's coming out. That's popping the stock here. In order to go long here, we needed to hold above 135.70. If it does that, 135.50. If it does that, great. It's got room to push into the 138s. So it would need to either consolidate right under here at the open and then break out and push, which we can take advantage of. But if this rolls over and comes back under the 132, very similar setup to AMD, old resistance, new support, break that, we could see a fall right back down to open price and kind of fill a gap down, or fill the gap from the overnight essentially. Coin, I'm really just focusing on this inverted hammer play on it. If we jump on the daily, you can see you have that inverted hammer, and just looking for some continuation on this to the downside. Needs to break that 73 level, 72.90, 72.80. If that breaks, we open up to the downside, and if we get back above 75.20, which essentially, yesterday's this little pivot high here, then we can look to kind of try to push into yesterday's high. Okay, so that's the game plan on these three. But let's jump into Nvidia, and I'll kind of talk about how you guys can take these trades to kind of and different ways that you could take them. Okay, so ideally everyone asks me, when do you take the alerts, when do you get involved, how do you do it? So I always say, if it's happening, if price action is about to trigger within the first few minutes, I'm in right away. Okay, if we consolidate right here and I see there's buying pressure coming in into the first 5-6 minutes, I'm getting involved right here as soon as we break out, so I can take advantage of this big surge and then not worry about the consolidation pullback. I want to be able to make my money right then and there. This is within the first 5-10 minutes if we get that consolidation and so forth. Okay. Now, another thing that you want to do is, obviously sometimes these moves happen in the pre-market. They kind of shoot up here, and then they consolidate, do their thing. You want to see if we get that retest down here. That's your one way to try to get involved. Get it on the retest and see if it holds for it to kind of go back up. Or what you could do is just watch it. It's got room to 138. So if it's opening here, look for some sort of a pattern to present itself, whether that's a bull flag, and then you can take advantage to the upside. Whatever the case may be, wait for a setup and get involved then. Don't just say, okay, it's above trigger, I got to get in, go. No, it doesn't work like that. You still need to form a pattern. Yes, it's got room to push, but you still need to have some sort of a way in. All right. Now, let's say this doesn't hold up and doesn't push above 135.47. In fact, it comes down. It opens up and it comes down and sells off right here to the bottom trigger. Okay, so now at this point, because price has gone from 135.67 all the way down to 132.76, it doesn't make sense to buy the trigger here. A big chunk of the move has already happened and you're chasing the move now. So you have two ways. You have to wait for a breakdown and a retest, right, to get involved in the retest, or you have to wait for a breakdown and consolidation of some sort of a flag, bear flag, before you get involved, and then take the move down again. Okay, so if it's a big move if it's made a big move obviously before the trigger, don't take the trigger. And lastly, if it's midday and price action has kind of gone all over the place and it's finally breaking at around like 2 p.m., you never want to take the trigger there. I mean, you could take the trigger, but ideally you want to wait for the breakout and the retest, and then continuation higher. So you can take it on the retest there. But on these things, one thing you want to pay attention to is down here on the volume. You want to see that spike in volume come in, and on the pullback, you want the volume to kind of decrease. So that's how that's the confirmation. Breakout was valid, volume came in, pullback is on the lower volume. All right, that is that. So we're gonna jump in to the chat. If you guys have questions about any tickers you want me to take a look at, go ahead and let me know. Let me know about the ticker, whether you want to day trade it, calls or puts, or if you're trying to swing trade it, let me know that as well. But always tell me if it's calls, puts, whatever the case may be, so I know what we are dealing with. So Hermes wants to know about Tesla. Is Hermes Syra? Curious. All right, so Tesla, let's take a look. Perfect. So Tesla, it's hitting that 20 moving average, seeing that rejection. You got resistance right here. Let's take a look at the 15-minute. Perfect. So ideally, I don't want to get involved in Tesla unless we break above 230.75. If we break above 230.75, great. I'll look to take advantage of it for a push higher, because you can see on the daily we get above 20 moving average, we get above old resistance, and now we got an upside pocket that we can kind of push towards the 240. Okay, that's a valid move on the upside. I'll wait for that to break the upside. On the downside, I'm not interested to trade anywhere in between this. Under 222.87, we could look to kind of fall back to 216, 217. I'll look for that, but otherwise anything in between, you're just kind of hoping for a move unless there's a pattern. But as of right now, those are the two triggers that I would pay attention to on Tesla. Foolish snowboarder AMD levels, I think we talked about with the triggers there, but the key level to watch here would be 62 to the upside, and then on the downside 60.50. It could get pretty ugly under 59.24, but we're really far from it. You could take advantage of the 60.50 for the put side to kind of see if it kind of falls back down here. It did have an inside day, So technically the inside day play for short would be under the 59.15, which is yesterday's low. So those are the few levels to kind of pay attention to in regards to that. If you have spare time, can you talk about GD? General Dynamics. I don't know what you want me to talk about. I don't know if you want to trade this on the long side, on the put side, calls, day trade, swing trade. But just looking at it here, obviously it's coming into a little bit of resistance. For it to move higher, it really needs to get back above this 52-week high, but very extended now from, I had earnings today, I guess. Oops. I guess I had earnings. Let me take a look. No, it didn't. Oh, I had earnings yesterday. Okay. Anyways, yeah, it's coming into resistance, and it's gone from 212 to 250. So I wouldn't be chasing this for a swing call position. I kind of look for intraday setups to get involved. Ideally, back under 242, you could buy some puts. If it gets over that 250 level, you could try to scalp this thing to the long side. Not a name that I usually trade because it's very slow. You can see price action is very jumpy. Not much volume traded on this one, so I kind of stay away from these things. Your opinion on the chance of Apple beating earnings after market? I don't really gamble or try to see if a company is going to beat earnings. I don't really, I'm not in the business to guess what companies are going to do. So 50-50 flip, calls or puts, you decide, my man. If possible, I have two, please, W30 put 1118 at AMGN 275C. W30 put. Let's take a look at W30 put. 1118. Okay. I mean, you got earnings at 11.3. You're buying a put, and IV is going to increase. I mean, I really got to ask you what the game plan was on buying the puts. Yes, I see a retest of 20 moving average. Yes, I see, it's just broken down to this big consolidation level. But it really depends when you got involved on those puts. Did you get involved on October 19th? Did you get involved yesterday? Where I would exit the position would probably be over 40. If it gets over 40, then it's probably just going to retest the 50 moving average, and the possibility of your options just decaying is very highly. And I would definitely not hold this through ER. AMGN 275 calls. Again, this one, it looks like it just broke out, but depends when you bought your call, right? It just broke out of the 52-week high. No, not sure. Actually, yeah, possibly broke out of the 52-week high here. Volume is there, but then again, you have earnings on November 3rd. So you really can't be swinging these things right before earnings. IV could hurt you big time unless you're really expecting a run up into earnings. Again, depending on when you got this could see a push back into the 275s area before it starts seeing some weakness, but you really only have, today is the 27th, so you have tomorrow, Monday, and Tuesday possibly to get that move towards the 275. Okay, so this one's not bad. It does have some potential to continue pushing, but again, same as the other one, I would cut this one before earnings. Coin calls. Not really interested in the coin calls here simply because of the candle it put in yesterday. For calls, you really have to wait to get above at least 75.50. Then you could try to push yesterday's highs. But at the moment, I'm trying to see if this is going to sell off under the 73. LOL, yep, it's me, Sarah. Definitely in calls and puts on SPY today. Thoughts on Apple puts, sir? I hate trading Apple. Look at this. Just look at this price action. It's just 8s. This is what Apple does like 60, I want to say 60, I want to say 70% of the time. Look at this. First of all, this candle is absolutely horrendous. And then yank, pop, yank, pop, yank, pop. We've gone nowhere. It's been 2 hours into the market open, and the stock hasn't done shit. This name just drives me bonkers. I hate trading this as a day trade. I think there's so much better things to trade, but if you want to buy puts on this, you really have to wait for 147.55 to break. Then you can kind of try to get this sold off to 146. But be prepared to get fucked around. It's just up, down, up, down, up, down. It's just bonkers. There's too many people. Apple is like the only stock people flock to when they're starting to day trade. It's just a bunch of noise for absolutely no reason. It just drives me crazy. I hate trading Apple. That's a little rant on Apple for you guys. Straddles are great for earnings. Yeah, if you learned straddles, you could do straddles, but again, I don't touch earnings much unless I go at 100% risk. How about calls puts for Netflix? How about calls puts? What is a calls puts? Netflix. I hope you mean what about calls for Netflix? Yeah, I mean on the broad picture you have this little bit of a, almost looks like a fallen wedge here. Maybe over 300. It could try to push back up here. It's had a pretty strong push. It isn't a gap fill on the daily. Over the 300, 301 could see a continuation back up to yesterday's highs. But I think if it loses that 297.30, it could open up to get some pullback at least, which would be healthy on the name. What are your thoughts on gold? Gold used to be a name that a lot of people flock to during uncertain times, but recently it's just been getting slaughtered as well. I haven't traded much gold recently in the last 2 years because of that. Usually, when markets would take a tumble, a lot of people would throw money into gold and stuff like that because it's in that physical thing that you can actually retain, and it goes up in price because it's always, there's less of it going forward into the future. But for whatever reason, that's not the case this year, so I haven't really put any money into gold as a protection kind of thing. XLE 89 call October 28. October 28 is great as long as you understand how to manage that position. Definitely not something you want to swing or hold overnight, but yeah, I like it. I think I mentioned in Discord that this thing over 89.75 could push. You have a lot of energy names that are still have room to kind of push the highs. So this one could see a little bit more continuation. Again, not something I would marry simply because very extended on the daily. So something I would probably try to trade very quickly to take profits. Not something I would marry. New levels on Nvidia since it's ripping up this morning. New levels on Nvidia. The level was 135.47. So new levels would be a retest and get involved on the retest of that level, which would be 135.47 area or 135.50. If you get a retest of that level, you can get involved on the calls. If not, you have to wait for some sort of a bull flag to present itself, or pattern to present itself before you get involved. All right, I gotta jump back into the room here, guys. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Remember, if you're still here, smash that like button. I would really appreciate it. And every Thursday we do go live right here on YouTube at 8:30 a.m. As always, appreciate every single one of you guys. I'll catch you guys all